Yay Media Group.
So what's up, everybody? Hey, it's your boy Cornelius Lindsay. Cornelius, tell your mom about me, Lindsay. Yo, what up? Happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving. You got Christmas coming up. Christmas is coming. Like, where did the year go? It's already December, right? Like, we in this thing though. We doing it. And we're getting towards the end of the year. Everybody's trying to figure out like what you getting or what you getting somebody else or what you doing, what you ain't doing, what party you going to, friends giving, family members that you may want to see, the family members that you don't want to see. It's it's so much, right? But I wanted to like talk about a subject I don't think we have really talked about on our podcast before, and that is overthinking. And it was interesting. I was having a conversation with my wife, and she was like, you know what, babe? She said, I really think that you should talk about overthinking, because that's one thing, that's an area for my wife. And when she comes back, you're going to have an opportunity to hear from her. That's an area from her that's like, is very difficult, because she can go there. Like, typically two people in a relationship, you have somebody who doesn't go there and somebody who goes all the way there. And my wife is one of those people. She will overthink herself just into a whole different world. And I constantly have to tell her, reeling her back in, like, yo, you're overthinking again. Like, you're doing it again. And we started laughing because she said, yo, if there's one place that you live, Cornelius, she said, you live in It Is What It Is. And that is exactly what I do. I have built a house brick by brick, and it is what it is. And I don't think anything's wrong with that. Because there's a part of this that I'm like, okay, if I constantly set my mind to overthinking, then I'm gonna ultimately think myself out of something and lead myself astray. So here's the thing. I want to go through my 5 top rules when it comes to overthinking, because just like you, if you are an overthinker, and it is so easy to overthink, especially during this holiday season, it's so easy to overthink. If you are an overthinker, I want to give you my 5 top rules that help me to just stop overthinking, to stop trying to just delve into it. But before I even get to that, so I have a friend who, and this just happened like recently. I have a friend, and he hadn't called me in a while, and I was just like, okay, what's going on? I consider him a friend, and I believe he considers me a friend. We've had that conversation, and so I reached out, just sent a text message. Hey, how you doing? Hadn't heard from you, hoping all is well. And he responded back, and he was like, man, I'm so glad that you reached out. And I was like, yo, what's going on? Like, talk to me. And he said, well, I called you the other day, and you didn't answer. And I was like, well, that's not like any other time. I mean, number one, I don't really like phone calls. Number two, I probably didn't see it because my phone stays on a D&D, but his number is one of those numbers that can come through. And I was like, well, I don't know. Then plus, if I'm driving, my phone's on focus, so it doesn't take in phone calls. It's a host of things. I could have been on a plane, or doing anything else. So why didn't you just text me? And he was like, I don't know. I thought about it, and I was like, well, he ain't got time for me. And I was like, yo, bro, like, why did you assume that? And he was like, I don't know. I just felt that way. And I said, we kept conversing about this, and my thing was, for him, it was like, okay, well, you felt this way, but this feeling had to come from somewhere. Let's talk about where this came from. And then we kept going, and about 15 minutes to the conversation, he said, he's having a difficult time because he's getting into what, many people refer to as seasonal depression. And the season brings all these different things. He's been divorced. This year he got divorced. So now he's back to being, well, he's a single father now with his kids, or sharing, or however you want to slice it. The holiday season's coming up. This is his first major holiday without having his full family in the house. He's moved out. And just things just look a lot different now. So he has this idea that he's being abandoned by everybody. And I know a lot of his childhood, which could ultimately prove why he felt the way he did, because he suffers with feeling abandoned. And he always, even when we became friends, it was always like, oh, bro, I don't need nothing. Like, I'm cool, because it was always this sense of independence. I got it. I'll take care of it. I don't need nobody. And I was like, bro, you don't have to feel that way. Like, it's okay to have brothers. It's okay to have family. It's okay to have friendship. It's okay to have community. It's okay to have relationship. Like, you're not built to do this by yourself. It's not good for you to be alone. And so we had worked on that. But then now this came back up. Situation happened with his ex-wife, and she said something to him in a text message that kind of sparked him. It's like, this is why you don't have any friends, and this is why you'll never really have a good relationship moving forward. So when he called me to have this conversation with me and I didn't answer the phone, in his mind, it served as evidence to substantiate what she said to him. And we got to that point, and I was like, bro, I said, this is one of the things that I want you to do. In the future, if this ever happens again, the easiest thing is be number one for you when it comes to overthinking. Ask. I know that can seem like a lot, but I had to stop him and I had to say, bro, I want you to ask. Ask questions. Because it's so easy for you to make these different assumptions. You don't want to hang out with me. You don't be my friend anymore. I'll never be good enough to have friends. I'll never be good enough to have a relationship. I'll never be good enough to have a partner. I'll never be good enough to do this. Never be good enough to do that. So you always assume. And I told my wife, I'm like, babe, like she will overthink. Where were we at? We had just gotten back. We had taken a trip to Mexico. And we had just gotten back from Mexico. I'm in the middle of training for a bite of a Z competition. I'm doing 2 hours of cardio a day. I'm working every day. I'm in the gym for like 5 hours a day. It's rough. I go to the gym in the morning, do work, pick up the kids, everything else. And then I'm back in the gym in the afternoon or at night, and I'm getting home late, and I'm in the sauna trying to drain out more water, and it's crazy. It's a crazy process. I don't recommend it. Well, I recommend it if you want to. If you're crazy, you like to compete. But anyway. My wife, she was like, I get back home and I was like, hey, what's going on? And she was just like, I don't know. Like, she just kind of had an attitude. And I was like, all right. I said, did I do something? And she's like, I don't know. No, you didn't do anything. Just whatever. And I was like, something's going on, and let's converse, because we're adults. We're emotionally mature. We're going to talk about it. Whatever it is, I know you're not being spiteful. You're not being vengeful. You actually have something that's going on, and I would love to hear what you have to say. And she was like, you hate me, don't you? And I was like, oh my God, where you get that from? I legit looked at her, and I'd remember, like, Cornelius, your face. I'm like, where'd you get that from? And she was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if my hormones are going crazy. Like, it's that time of the month, and and you do it. And she was just like, I don't understand. And you was at the gym, and I was like, he's getting in shape, and and he doesn't, like, I don't know if maybe you don't find me attractive anymore. And I was like, oh, baby. I was like, yo, calm down. Like, you got all of that during the time I was at the gym, like, for real. And she's like, you have no idea. Like, my mind travels down the street, around the corner, into an airplane, and takes it all the way over to another country, and lives there, and then has a travel. And I was like, yo, chill out. I was like, but ask me the question. She's like, do you hate me? I was like, yo, I'm here, aren't I? No, I don't hate you. I love you. I actually like being around you. I think you're a really dope person. I actually enjoy hanging out with you. Sometimes you piss me off, like I piss you off, but that's the benefit of, that's like, being in a relationship. It's being real. I was like, but next time ask me the question. Like, when you thought the question, either you have two choices. Either you can push it out, which is going to be number two, which is to reframe the thought. You can reframe that thought and say, you don't hate me. Like, what the heck am I doing? You're crazy. Like, stop. Reframe the thought. Or you could just ask, do you hate me? And I could be like, no, I don't hate you. And then we can move on. You know what I mean? But we have to determine where that came from. I told my boy, I said, yo, just ask me next time. Like, ask me. Because I'll be honest with you. I'll be very frank with you. I'll be very authentic with you. Yeah, no, we ain't cool no more. And that's completely fine. I love to be very upfront with my friends. I love to be very upfront with anybody I'm in a relationship with. I love to just be very upfront. This is what it is. This is what it is. And whatever. If I mess with you, I mess with you. If I don't, I don't. 2 fingers, intro, deuces, whatever. We out. But, you have to learn how to ask questions. I know it sounds simple, but it can be a lot because it takes that extra energy, that extra set of care and compassion to say, you know what? Let me not assume. Let me ask. Do you hate me? You don't hate me? Oh, thank God. I'm so glad you don't hate me. Or, let me ask the question. Are you mad at me, bro? No, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. Like, you're busy right now. You're trying to understand this whole new world of being a father without your wife, being a father and not being a husband. You're used to being a husband for all of these years, and now you don't know what that looks like anymore. You're navigating this new normal. You're also trying to navigate what it looks like for you to be yourself outside of you being a husband and a dad, because you realize that you had your whole identity warped into your marriage and into your family. And now that you don't have that anymore, you're trying to figure out who you are and what you want and what you like and what you want to do, because you don't know what that is anymore. So there's a lot that's there, and you're trying to perpetuate this entire thing. And then ultimately you take words that were said to you, and then you use the closest things in order to validate what those words were. And then ultimately you accepted those words as they were true. They became a part of your identity. When I didn't answer the phone, that gave you evidence for you to actually believe that nobody wanted to be in your life. So then you succumb to more depression. And then now you push yourself away from everybody else who loves you, who cares for you, because you assume nobody wants to be around you. And then what makes it even worse is that then you start scrolling on social media and you start seeing all these people who get invited to all these different parties and all these different things. And why didn't I get invited to this? And why don't I have friends do this? And why blah, 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 blah. And who's going to get me something? And blah, blah. And I feel alone and I want to be with somebody, and everybody's getting engaged and everybody's about to get married. And calm down, chill out. Ask. Learn how to ask questions. And here's the thing. If you're going to ask a question, this is another podcast for another time, but if you're going to ask a question, make sure you ask a core question. What a core question is, this is something I coined for me and my wife. A core question is a question that deals with the core of what you are uncertain about, or core of what the issue is. Because a lot of times we can ask questions to kind of dance around the issue. I hate to dance around the issue. What is it? Just say what it is, and whatever it is, let that be what it is. And let's move on from whatever that's going to be. But we need to make sure we know exactly what that is. So ask a core question. So number one is ask questions. Number two, you need to reframe your thought. We talked about this earlier. We need to reframe your thought. This is the thought you had. That thought's absolutely crazy. It's asinine. I'm moving on. I want to replace this thing spiritually. For those individuals who understand, it says to take capture of the thought. So I'm taking capture of it. I'm reframing the thought. I recognize this is what I think, but that's not true. Even though I could have substantiated evidence in order to prove what it is that I believe, I'm still going to take it as an untruth, because it goes back to that old saying. You ever heard they say that, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's a complete lie. But it's not a full lie. Words do not have the power to hurt you. But the reason why words can hurt is because the words don't have power until you believe them. The moment you believe what somebody has said is the moment that those words now take power over you, and now they become they're part of your identity. So somebody looks at you and say, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're ugly. That don't mean nothing to me, because I know I'm not stupid. I know I ain't dumb, and I doggone sure know I'm not ugly. So they don't mean anything to me. But the moment that I hear those things and I believe them, they become a part of my identity. It doesn't matter what I do to my body, my physique, or my mind. I will always believe that I am ugly no matter how I look, because I chose to believe something that I should have just reframed my mind into thinking. And you may need to take some time to reframe your thought. Stop going around the corner. Just stop. Number three, learn how to accept uncertainty. I have gotten beat up over this by people who I love, who tell me, Cornelius, you should not have that type of mentality. My mentality is, it is what it is. It's going to be what it's going to be. That's just it. That's just it. I'm not going to chase. I'm not going. I don't know what it is. I don't feel the need to. You know what I mean? It is what it is. it is what it is. And I just accept uncertainty. I'm not trying to control everything that comes because I recognize that in life, there are some things that are just uncertain. And a big part of faith is recognizing that although there are things that I cannot see, I just have to believe that God's going to meet me there when I get there because there is uncertainty. Me constantly overthinking about it. Like, oh my goodness, it's going to be the worst thing ever happened to me. And I've had those days where I thought, oh my God, I'm dreading something that's going to happen next week. But then if I can just think back to other days that I dreaded, and I got through those days just fine. I got through those days. So that allows for me to just kind of cast all that care off because I'm just like, you know what? I got somebody who cares for me. And I mean, what's the worst that can happen? I tell it all the time. I tell my kids, so what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? One of my kids, he was like, well, you can drown and you can die. And I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I could. But if that's the worst thing that happened, then guess what? I got closer to my Savior. So, you know, and here's the thing. If something happened to me, you're well off financially. Like, of course, you're going to miss me. I mean, who wouldn't miss me, you know? But I always have to ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? Plus, I can't control. It is in the midst of uncertainty in a lot of different ways, or really what happens to me in the future. I don't know the day or the hour. So I'm not going to sit here and try to control it. Like, yeah, you got me for the next 20 years. I don't know what the next 20 minutes holds. But I've learned how to settle the sense of uncertainty. Even talking about the whole swimming piece. Like, I remember I told a buddy of mine, we were sitting around a table and I told a buddy of mine, I said, you know, there was a time in my life where I was okay, or I'm okay until I stop and think. The moment I slow down and I just think, that's when my mind goes, when it just starts rolling. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta stop. I gotta stop doing this. I've had to learn. I used a drowning swimming a metaphor. So, you know, if you're out swimming, and if you just keep swimming, you won't drown. You drown the moment you what? You stop swimming. I just have to keep swimming. You know, if you listen to this podcast for any point in time, you know that depression was a big thing that I suffered with. I don't have that issue anymore. A couple things in my life changed. And I also don't take the medication for it anymore. It wasn't permanent for me. It was something I needed just to get through that time period. But a couple things in my life changed. I came to a whole different mentality about life that really helped me. We could talk about that later. And I've also learned that as long as I'm continuing to move forward, I really don't have time to just stay down in depression, which takes me to that next piece, and that's distraction. I've learned how to find good distractions. Good distractions. Like, one of the things that's really helped me now to be distracted is real estate. That's a great distraction. I love it. I jump into it, go buy a property, renovate it, put somebody in it, and then refine it. I mean, I am all in to really, I absolutely love it. It keeps me free from a time schedule. I don't have to go into an office. I mean, the only thing I have to deal with, I got to deal with builders. I got to deal with realtors. I mean, but all that's a phone call. That's a phone call. It's a conversation. And most times you'd be like, look, just do it, fix it. And then I'll pay you on a pay schedule. That's it. But you know, it's like, I found good distractions. Going to the gym is a great distraction for me. Like, having children is a great distraction for me. Having a family, having a wife is a great distraction for me. Those are good distractions. And as long as I am focused on good distractions, I got things that are actually before me that I could take care of. I don't really feel depressed because I'm like, yo, I got things in front of me I could take care of. I've learned through my own, life. I felt the most depressed when I felt like I wasn't needed and I didn't have anything I was doing. And during that big period of my life where I felt depressed, it's the fact that either A, I felt like I was at the top of my mountain and I felt like, okay, what more am I supposed to do? Which is why my first therapist, he looked at me and said, I think you're going through a quarter life crisis. He said, most times I forget what he called it. It was like something like childhood actor syndrome or whatever it is, because they get to a certain point in life and they feel like, well, I got it. Because he was asking me, he's like, so what do you like to do for fun? I'm like, I don't know. I don't like to do anything for fun. I really don't. I don't know. I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me the question because I never thought about it. Because when it came down to fun, it was like, I don't know. Like, there was no resort that I wanted to go to because I felt like, I've already been to them. I've stayed at a resort that was $10,000 a night. Crazy. I know, but $10,000 a night. Now I stayed at a resort that was $100 or at a motel, because somebody put me there. It was like my first days when I started preaching, and somebody put me at like this Comfort Inn and Suites. No, it wasn't even Suites. It was just a Comfort Inn, and it was like in Miami, and it was oh my gosh, and I was just, I remember calling my wife, like, I'm gonna just stay here. I remember walking into the room. It was one of those, it was a motel. So like the rooms were on the outside. I remember walking into the room, and when I walked in, there was like a big brown stain that was on the comforter. And I was like, oh my God. Compared that to, I was preaching in Little Falls, Minnesota. It was crazy. And I stayed at this hotel called the Americana or something like that. I swear up and down is like it was from the scene of that Thrasher movie, the killer movie. I know serial killers stayed there. They were just looking for people. I remember walking to Walmart, and I felt like I was the only black dude there. I remember walking to Walmart and buying sheets and cleaner and everything else. It just, but nevertheless, I had gotten to this place where I was like, I was jumping all around into all these different places, trying to figure out, who I was, what I was supposed to be doing, what I want. And I had stayed in the $10,000 room. I stayed in the $100 room. I didn't want to go to beaches. I've been on the pink sanded beaches and the black sanded beaches, only to find out that it's just ash that did whatever it did. I've seen these waters. I've seen the Crystal Cove waters. I've jumped into the lagoons. I did the ATVing. I did this. I traveled to this country. I went to the Middle East, and I've spoken on this stage. I've spoken on that stage. I released a book. I held the conference. I hosted the conference. I went to the conference. I spoke at the conference. It's almost like all these things that I set out to do, I'm like, well, I've done them. I've done the TV. I've done this. And I was just like, you know what? There's nothing I want to do anymore. I kind of reached my ceiling. And I was like, this is it. And I didn't really know what else would get me passionate. So I had to find good distractions, and you have to find that too. Another one, number 4, is stop getting so much information. The Bible actually talks about something. It says the accumulation of information actually brings much sorrow. And I've found that a lot of people who I know overthink because you know too much. I love the fact that so many people are so educated. But if you notice, a lot of our college system nowadays is not even too much education, it's indoctrination. And indoctrination and education are not the same thing. But indoctrination leads to just this constipation of information. And when you have a constipation of information, guess what happens? There is no action. So a lot of people know too much, and that's the reason why they don't do anything. So now you think too much about what you need to do. Like right now, you are listening to this or you're watching this. And here's the crazy thing. You have things right now in your draft on social media that you should have posted 2 months ago, and you didn't. Why? Because you are overanalyzing it too much. You have a whole business. You went out and got somebody to design a logo, and you still haven't put it out. Why? Because you are thinking about it too much. You have too much information, and that is causing you to overthink. Stop. And the last one, the big one, is learn how to practice presence. I'm just be present. Now, this is one that I'm still working on. I was in Mexico with my kids, and we're all at the pool. And so I'm thinking about, man, I need to go back. I need to do my workout. I need to do another hour of cardio. I need to do this. I need to do that. Man, I got a call. I'm supposed to do this. And did I reschedule that call? And oh my goodness, I need to plan this out. And blah, 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 blah. And my attorney was supposed to call me right here. And and I noticed the Thanksgiving weekend, but Thanksgiving week, blah, 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 blah. And I had all these things going on, and I stopped. And I said, no, I want to be present. I was laying next to my wife at the pool, and she looked at me. She said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to get in the pool. And she's like, you're going to get in the pool? I said, yeah, I'm going out there to get in the pool with Roman. And I jumped out and said, yo, what's up, Romo? And he was like, Daddy, yeah. He was like, throw me up in the air. And I being out there with him, it was like, my kid is focused on the present. My kid is focused on the here, right now. Why? Because he has a daddy and a mama who's going to take care of him. He's okay. He's like, all I'm focused on right now is this water and the little friends that I've made. He was like, Dad, could you throw up these kids too? I'm like, I don't know these kids. I'm not throwing these kids up. And I don't know these little white babies. No, I'm not throwing these kids up. But he was just so focused on just the water, the sun, and just having a good time. He was right there in the present. He wasn't thinking about all these things that I know we become adults and we feel like we have all these different things we have to take care of. And we just need all these things to be taken care of so much. And my son is just like, he's 6. He's like, Daddy, just throw me up in the air. And in that moment, all I could think about was, let's just throw them up in the air. And I look up, an hour and a half has passed by. And those are core memories that he'll always have, but he doesn't realize I have them too. I was learning from a 6-year-old how to be present and how to live in the moment. Because I was laying there and I was starting to overthink. In Cabo, 86 degrees, poolside, sun shining, small overcast, beautiful water in front of me, food coming everywhere. I got my drinks next. Why am I overthinking here? What is that? This is just to be enjoyed, bruh. And even if you don't have a setting like that, you may be sitting at home. You may be sitting in your car right now. You may be watching this at the gym because you have to do 2 hours of cardio like I did. Sorry. I want you to pull back. I want you to be present. Enjoy it. Because here's the greatest thing about that. You'll never get this time back. My youngest son will never be 6 years old again. I look at my 11-year-old and I tell him every day, I'm like, bro, I remember when we brought you home from the hospital and your mom and I laid you in that rocker thing. It just went like this, but it went slow, and we put him, we were living in Smyrna, Georgia at the time. And we put him inside of this thing. And I remember we both just stood there and we just stared at him. And I looked at my wife and I said, what are we supposed to do with him? And she was like, oh my goodness. Like, are you serious? And I'm like, they give me a manual. And here's the crazy thing. I took all the class. I did the boot camp class. I did the baby CPR class. I did all these classes. I still felt so unprepared. Like, I don't know. I guess you wait till he cries and we just figure out if he's hungry, if he's poopy or whatever. I don't know. But I remember those days. I remember the day that he started walking. I remember the day that he started crawling. I remember the day that, I had this idea that I wanted to have my own office on Peachtree City, a corner office. And I finally got my corner office on Peachtree Street. And I forget, it was glass windows. And I had my name on the door. I had the assistant. It was so cool, just dumb. And I remember I'm sitting at the desk, like, I did it. And I looked outside the window and I saw, it was a park outside, and I just saw parents playing with their kids. I remember calling my wife and I'm like, what are y'all doing? And she's like, oh my goodness, I'm outside with Logan right now and he's pushing this little car around. And I said, yo, FaceTime me. She FaceTime me and I was like, oh, that's so dope. I was like, yo, why am I here? She's like, I don't know. You wanted to be there. I'm like, yo, I'm leaving. I didn't go back to the office. I had to pay for the stupid thing because I had a lease, so I had to pay for it. But ultimately I was like, I'm not going back to this. I want to be here with my kid. I remember I was there for all 3 of my kids' births. I was there when they cried. I was there when they laughed. It's like being there for these moments. And I always joke with my son, I'm like, son, we'll never have these moments back. You will never have these moments back. You will never get 2024 again. This day, the day you're listening to this, in this moment, you'll never get it again. And you're overthinking about tomorrow? Man, screw that. Screw that. We're going to live in the present. Why? Because the present matters and you matter. Yo, here's what I want you to do. I've given you this. There's only one thing I ask you to do. Will you do it for me? I want you to send this to at least 3 people you know who are overthinking right now. And just tell them, trust me, listen to this. It can help you. If you're married or you're in a relationship or even a situationship, I don't judge. We listen and we don't judge. And you want somebody else, the person you're with is an overthinker, maybe sit down and listen to it together. And then afterwards, ask some questions, some real questions, core questions, and really get down to the root of some issues. All right. So y'all, I appreciate y'all joining us. Appreciate y'all locking in with us. We got some exciting things coming up, some exciting interviews. Stay with us, lock in with us. Make sure you subscribe. And remember, all I ask you to do is one thing. Share this with 3 people that you know. That's it. Or maybe 4, or maybe 5, but at least 3. All right, y'all. Introduces Cornelius. I'm out of this piece. Bye.
Yay Media Group.